Welcome to again in continuation with economic planning in India. And today we are going to talk about the long term goals. We finished with the short term goals, which were plan specific. Long term goals, as they sound, are all pervasive. That means that in the in whatever planning we do, we have all these uh, goals in our mind. Any planning, short term or whatever objective that you have, we have these long term. Now let me just make you learn like yes. It rhymes with yes, so I put it as mess. Mess is for modernization, economic growth, employment, that is full employment. S is self-reliance, and then you have social justice. So just learn that up. So we are talking about sometimes the long-term goals. Planning with long-term goals is also known as perspective planning. Planning in the long run. When you plan, these are your long-term goals. So I want you to see that, and we will go through each one of this, and I hope you can see that clearly. So beginning with modernization, it's not just modernization, modern technology. When you're talking about modern technology, it is also about how do you, your mindset, how does it change? Like for example, now let's take technology brought about such a change in agriculture. That means that we got the green revolution because of that. And then even in industry, you see so many innovations have come up, because modern age is an age of science and innovations, and science has given us so many new ways of doing things. Now recently, if you take the IT revolution, it has redefined the concept of domestic production through BPO. What is BPO? Business process outsourcing. So modernization, it is always, whatever you're doing, you're talking about economic planning, then you have to think about we're going to do with outdated methods. We have to think about modern way of doing things. And the second is what is known as economic growth. Now economic growth is what? To increase the GDP. What is GDP? Gross domestic product. Which means planning in India has to ensure that natural resources are fully explored and production technology is continuously improved, and so that the GDP grows and it brings about benefits to the entire economy. Then we come to what is known as we're talking about employment, full employment. That means you're talking about everybody, there should be an increase in employment, because if people are not employed, then what happens? Poverty. When poverty happens, then unrest. So increase in employment has been a real it's a long term objective of our plan. And better utilization of our manpower resources and employment opportunities has to be we have to eliminate poverty. And how do we eliminate? By seeing that every person, every able-bodied person is employed. So that is employment. And then we've talked about economic growth, we've talked about employment. Then that comes to MEE is done. So let's take the S. Now what is S? Let's take self-reliance. So what is self-reliance? It implies reduction in the dependence on foreign aid or concessional foreign capital. In fact, when you're talking about political independence, it is useless, it's meaningless, or it's incomplete without economic independence. For example, if we are dependent on others for, say, food, grains from abroad or things like that, then what happens? Or machinery or capital, whatever. people can, those countries can exploit underdeveloped countries like us, Indians, India, because they can influence our economic policies. So that is why it is so important, this goal of self-reliant economic growth. And this was incorporated in the fourth five-year plan. So then we come to what is known as social justice. Now, economic growth, we can grow or we can become rich or whatever. That's all very well, but it is useless if the benefits do not reach the masses. And suppose if there is growth, we boast about growth, and more than half of our people are living in poverty, then where is the social justice? Then what does growth do? Everyone, there should be no poor as poor. Everybody should have what are the necessaries of life: food, clothing, and shelter. Only then can social justice, the goal of social justice, can be achieved. And this is what this is the long term objective. And special care has to be taken for the backward and the weaker sections of the society. There is no question of ignoring them. And also regional inequalities. No region, whichever region we see, there should be no region in India which we should stamp as backward. No way, no questions. And this has been a long-term objective, and this was a long-term objective, and I hope it's carried on in the Niti Aayog. But let's see. So these are the long-term objectives.